Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. If the brothers and sisters could just move a bit forward, especially the brothers, inshallah, so that we can keep room for the guys coming inside. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. A little bit more, inshallah. أحسنتم. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. عظم الله أجورنا وأجوركم بمصابنا بسيدنا ومولانا أمير المؤمنين عليه السلام، وجعلنا الله وإياكم من الطالبين بثأره بين يدي الإمام المنصور المؤيد المهدي من آل محمد. اللهم صل على صلى الله عليك يا رسول الله وعلى روحك وبدنك الطاهرة. صلى الله عليك يا أبا الحسن يا أمير المؤمنين. أما بعد. Respected brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. The government of Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib was nothing short of spectacular. Despite the turbulent circumstances and the arduous situations leading with 3 civil wars, it would be a miracle to see any head of state of such an establishment not go insane. Yet Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen managed to display a degree of class that transcends time despite the political circumstances. In addition to providing us an example of a government, of an empire, of a nation that runs on the virtues of humanitarianism, because it transcended Islam and Christianity and Judaism, his justice. Everyone was subject to the justice of Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib. In fact, one way to identify whether an accomplishment is actually praiseworthy is by seeing what other major think tanks have to say about such accomplishments. So for example, if ever you wanted to see if an academic piece, an article, is worth its salt in modern academia, you have to go and examine what did other academics say about that piece. Did any professors follow up on it, reference it? Is anyone citing it, providing any citations and references to that academic journal or article, or no? The more you see major think tanks reference such examples, the more you know that these examples or contributions are actually significant. And in the government of Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib, we see major think tanks that are non-Muslim, that have nothing to do with religiosity, praise the government of Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib. I recall in 2002, Kofi Annan, the former head of the United Nations, made a very profound statement when he said the following, and this can be found at the UN.gov's website in their archives, that the example of Ali ibn Abi Talib in his justice, the 7th century Muslim ruler, is one of the greatest examples of human justice. And every nation in the world, particularly the Arab nations, should take his example. When we see major think tanks, world's biggest humanitarian organizations, acknowledge that the justice system, the government of Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen is something we should take lessons from, this gives just that piece of history more reference, more reverence. But we don't need any third party, any other sources to tell us how valuable the contributions of Imam Ali alayhi salam were. We just need to open not even 3 pages, 2 pages, 2 folds of Islamic history, inquiring about the government of Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib, and we pray, Ya Allah, if every government took the examples of Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib, we would live in a utopian society today. Let us begin examining the government system of Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen, salawatullahi wa salamuhu ala, after ilah salawat ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. Of course, we all know that Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib did not receive his right of leadership for over 24 years. The first Khalifa, Abu Bakr ibn Abi Quhafa, ruled for 2 years, followed by Umar ibn al-Khattab, who ruled for 10 years. This is a total of 12 years in total. Then followed by Uthman ibn Affan, who ruled for 12 years. And so for a duration of 24 years, Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib had no political jurisdiction. The most Amir al-Mu'mineen would do was simply give advice. Some point at the giving of advice by Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib to these establishments as a dalil, as a proof that he was totally okay with these establishments. No, that's not the case. Imam Ali prioritizes the oneness of the Muslim Ummah. And so even if he has been ousted from his right, he will still try his absolute to help society. Ahlul Bayt are not frail, almost like immature. If I don't get it, I'm not even going to do anything about it anymore. If I don't have it, it's all or nothing. I will not even help you guys when you need my help. That's never the case. Even if they don't have a position of authority, the Imam will still try his best to help the Muslim Ummah because they prioritize the Muslim Ummah above themselves. So we see numerous occasions where there are disputes on legal matters, jurisprudential matters, social matters, such that the Khulafa and the Caliphs have to resort to Amir al-Mu'mineen as the greatest of judges. And it started off with Abu Bakr. He looked at Imam Ali and he said, look, I know you're not the Khalifa, but I want to make you our judge, the Qadi, the judge for the Muslim world. If ever there is a dispute in the Muslim land, I want you to make the final say. A judge is someone that knows the jurisdiction and can make law here. Of course, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala uses this beautifully in the Holy Quran when He says, Jalla Jalaluhu, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, وَقَضَى رَبُّكَ أَلَّا تَعْبُدُوا إِلَّا إِيَّاهُ وَبِالْوَالِدَيْنِ إِحْسَانًا. وَقَضَى comes from the term qadi. A qadi makes laws. وَقَضَى رَبُّكَ means that your Lord is now occupying this judge position. He's making the following statement, which is a law. So the following is a law you cannot break. And if you break it, you did something illegal. What was the law Allah made in this example of the ayah? أَلَّا تَعْبُدُوا إِلَّا إِيَّاهُ. That you worship none but Him, meaning Tawheed. وَبِالْوَالِدَيْنِ إِحْسَانًا. And you be kind to your mother and father. That's Allah. That's Allah in Islamic theology, being kind to your parents. But you notice, what did Allah say predicating the statement? وَقَضَى رَبُّكَ. Your Lord has made a law, meaning the following is a hukum shar'i. Amir al-Mu'mineen was placed in that position where he was a qadi, he was making rules. Now the sad thing is, many people look at this order, the Khulafa al-Rashidun, and they say this order, unfortunately, in the school of Ahlul Bayt we disagree with this, is in order of, obviously it's chronological, but it is also in order of competence. So why was the first Khalifa, then the second, and the third, then Imam Ali the fourth? Because they were the most competent for that time period. I tell you, no one was more competent than Amir al-Mu'mineen. But that's the order that people put the significance. First it's this guy, then Ali ibn Abi Talib can exercise his legitimacy because it wasn't ready for him. He wasn't ripe enough. La, that's not the case. Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen was more than ready. Many bring the following examples. This will not be a polemical discussion why Imam Ali deserves the haqq. He is the haqq, al-haqq ma'a Ali, wal-aliyu ma'al haqq. Rasulullah made that very clear. But this is just to reference what Imam Ali dealt with before he finally assumed what? That khilafah. It's not nice, it's not right, it's not justice to say to Imam Ali, you finally became Khalifa. He was Khalifa day one. To us, he was Khalifa day one. What does the term khilafah mean? Min khilaf. When you say khalfa shay, means from behind, correct? It means something something that is behind you. Amam is in front, khilaf means behind. It also can mean by the root dispute. Ikhtilaf, ikhtilafat, you dispute. Meaning what? This person will come right after the Prophet. When the Prophet leaves, he leaves behind a Khalifa. He leaves behind. That term is there. And if there are any ikhtilafat, if there are any disputes, in what? Anything. Heavenly, worldly, spiritual, materialistic. Anything, you go back to him. The term Khalifa, in of itself, postulates infallibility. Thus the term Khalifa postulates infallibility, because the term means if there is dispute about what? Anything, him. That person will give you the result. And Allah found it necessary. Allah said, look, I don't care if there are no humans on earth. The first moment I bring a human, that person needs to be a Khalifa. At all times, there has to be an infallible individual representing me. So what does Allah do? وَإِذْ قَالَ رَبُّكَ لِلْمَلَائِكَةِ إِنِّي جَاعِلٌ فِي الْأَرْضِ خَلِيفَةً. The angels replied, أَتَجْعَلُ فِيهَا مَنْ يُفْسِدُ فِيهَا وَيَسْفِكُ الدِّمَاءَ وَنَحْنُ, and they give an alternative, وَنَحْنُ نُسَبِّحُ بِحَمْدِكَ وَنُقَدِّسُ لَكَ قَالَ إِنِّي أَعْلَمُ مَا لَا تَعْلَمُونَ. And your Lord has said to the angels, I will bring down upon the earth a Khalifa. Meaning, Khilafa comes from up, down, not down, up. You don't choose who you can decide represents God for you. God can decide who represents Him. It doesn't make any sense. You are the president, but we will pick your vice president for you. No. That person has absolute entitlement to decide who they want representing them in their absence and so forth. So in any case, Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen was always Khalifa day one. It doesn't mean the fact that he's not sitting on a chair, on a minbar, on a throne, and with the word Khalifa written on top of it, that he's not a Khalifa. He's Khalifa day one to us in the eyes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Many have disputed, no, because when Rasulullah, in our narrative, officially made Imam Ali the public Khalifa, that was the day of Ghadir Khum. And on that day, Rasulullah was still alive. So can you have two Khulafa alive at the same time? We've never seen this before. Therefore, this was only a mere statement of recognition. Ya Ali, anta mawla kulli mu'minin min ba'di, for example, man kuntu mawla fahada aliyun mawla. This was just as a source of endorsement. He loves you, Ya Rasulullah, and Ya Ali, and he wants to call you his close and dear friend, my mawla. Because it's impossible to see two Khalifas, two Khulafa alive in one time period. Oh, I guess we never saw Musa and Harun alive at the same time in that case. I guess we never saw Adam and Sheeth alive at the same time in that case. I guess we never saw Yaqub and Yusuf alive at the same time in that case. You can have multiple ma'sumeen alive. And Rasulullah hinted this when he said what? Al-Hassani wal-Husayn imamani qama aw qa'ida. My two sons, Al-Hassan wal-Husayn, they are imams whether they stand in their imamah or they are sitting down. Standing here means whether they are active in their imamah. And sitting down means it's not their role to be public imam yet, but they're still an imam. Meaning whatever they say, you still have to abide by. They're still imam. What does that mean? In one moment you can have multiple a'imma alive. Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen is alive, and his imam is Rasulullah. Then Imam al-Hassan and Hussein, they're alive at the same time. And so these are all inactive imams, except Rasulullah is the active one. When Rasulullah leaves this world, Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen is the standing imam. Al-Hassan wal-Hussein are still the seating imam. Even though they're seated, they're inactive in their role of imamah, they're still a hujjah for you. That's why Rasulullah said, imaman, whether they are active or inactive. In any case, Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen came into power in this circumstance. By endorsing, by giving advice, that does not mean the imam endorsed such establishments. Imam Ali alayhi salam is bigger than to say, well, if you didn't recognize me as Khalifa, I'm not going to contribute. No, when there are disputes in society, Imam gets involved. I remember in the famous events known as the Ridda Wars. The Ridda Wars, or Hurub al-Ridda, the apostasy wars, brothers and sisters. These were battles that were done because many left Islam after they saw that Rasulullah died, And many left Islam when they saw Imam Ali did not become Khalifa. Malik bin Nuwayra didn't leave Islam, but he didn't recognize the establishment. And so many of those in charge went after and killed them. But there was a group of people that actually left Islam. They became apostates and they followed a false prophet. Many of them followed a lady by the name of Sajah. And this lady, she was a prophetess claimant. And also Musaylama al-Kadhab. He called himself a prophet as well. This all happened right after the prophet died. And so Abu Bakr wants to fight all of them, and he dispatches an army. Before he dispatches the army, Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen tells him, before you send men to fight, let me advise you on something. These people, they're coming from the land of Ta'if. Musaylim al-Kadhab, Sajah al-Tamimiyya. These are all in that land of Ta'if. Ta'if is a land between Iraq and Mecca and Medina. So if you're going to send an army, it's not good. Send a man from Ta'if, let him preach to them first. Try negotiating. Don't just jump to war. Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen would always deploy this tactic. Speak, communicate. Have some communication before you resort to blood and shed and killing. Send someone from among them. He said, who do we send? He said, send Uday bin Hatim al-Ta'i from Ta'if as well. He will speak to them, and he is my student, and I have taught him, and he is an intelligent, and he will speak to them. Seriously, Imam sent Uday bin Hatim al-Ta'i. Abu Bakr sent him over the orders of Imam, and he managed to resolve it without there being a conflict. So Imam Ali would get involved in these areas. Or if a lady had an issue, two women one time fought over the child, both of them claiming it was their child, and so they came to Umar ibn al-Khattab. Umar said, both of you are going to be killed right now. Why? Because both of you did zina. Where is the husband here? And so they came to Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen. Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen resolved this dispute. The real mother of this child said, listen, I don't know who the father is, but that was because I was traveling and I was extremely thirsty. And this man would not give me water, and I saw him in the desert unless I spent a night with him. And so I was compelled, I was going to die. I know I am guilty, I committed this adulterous act, wal-'iyadhu billah, but what can I do? Here's a baby, and now this lady also claims it's her baby. What do I do in this situation? You know how lost a person might feel in that situation? Their chastity is being undermined. They have a baby to deal with, and they're potentially going to get capital punishment. They said that you must be killed. Imam said, no, she doesn't get killed. Why? She was compelled. The Quran said if a person is compelled to do a sin because of their hunger or thirst, or because of their livelihood, لا تثريب عليهم, that they have no need to worry. They were compelled. It's not the fault of the person, it's the fault of the state for not providing a circumstance where this could have been. So Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen would get involved during this reign of the caliphate. In addition, the last reign, the last rule under Uthman bin Affan was a very seriously incompetent one. Uthman bin Affan had a habit of nepotism, brothers and sisters, where he would only employ and hire his relatives and families. So you had Al-Marwan ibn al-Hakam, Al-Hakam ibn Abi al-As. You had Al-Walid bin Utbah or Walid bin Uqbah as well. These were all his cousins and relatives, and he would put them in charge. Marwan ibn al-Hakam, you can even look at Sahih Bukhari, Rasulullah condemns him. He condemns him and his father Al-Hakam bin Abi al-As. Why? Because he was banished from the Muslim world. Al-Hakam ibn Abi al-As came to Rasulullah and would make faces at him and call him, his name is Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alihi, he would call him Muhammad, astaghfirullah. And that means someone who doesn't understand their own gender, wal-'iyadhu billah. He would insult the Holy Prophet of Islam and hurt his feelings. So what did the Holy Prophet do? These are insults. He banished him from society. You go. Ya Al-Hakam, you go. You and your son, Marwan ibn al-Hakam. Rasulullah banishes him. Uthman bin Affan brings him back to power, brings him back to charge. Not only that, Rasulullah banished a man who the Quran condemned of all things to have condemned you. It's the worst thing to have in your resume, that the Quran, by the way, has condemned me. يا أيها الذين آمنوا إن جاءكم فاسق بنبأ فتبينوا. O you who believe, if a wicked, lying person comes up to you with news, then verify it. What happened? Al-Walid bin Uqbah, his cousin, was sent to an area of a tribe by the name of Banu Mustalaq. Banu Mustalaq received him, and he had an issue with them to begin with. So when he was sent to them to speak the word of Islam and to collect some of the khums and zakat from them, they came and they emerged just to approach him. He became afraid. He just thought immediately they're going to come and beat me up. So let me go back before they get to me. He came back to Rasulullah in Medina. He said, Ya Rasulullah, these people, they are still gangsters, they're still thugs, they're still bandits, they haven't accepted Islam, and they wanted to kill me. I almost died. Rasulullah said, you know that's a fat lie. That never happened. And Allah revealed an ayah of the Holy Quran, Ya ayyuha alladhina amanu idha ja'akum fasiqun. Allah called him a fasiq. And so what did Rasulullah do? Leave the Muslim world. Not killing, just go. Leave the Muslim world. Rasulullah banishes him, Uthman brought him back. You bring back people Rasulullah banishes, and not just bring him back. Let me make him the governor of Kufa. Not just the governor of Kufa, let me make him the Imam Jama'ah of Kufa. Not just the Imam Jama'ah of Kufa, let me make him the one who does every single salah in Masjid al-Kufa itself. And how blessed is Masjid al-Kufa? And one day he would be leading salah, in the famous story, he had a number of drinks, unfortunately, before he led the salah. As he was leading salah, it happened to be salat as-subh, fajr prayers. He got to the fourth rak'ah. How many rak'at is salat as-subh? It's 2. He got to the fourth one. When he got to the fourth rak'ah, he's leading it, he forgets where he's at, he turns around and he says, should I continue by the way, or are we done here today? And so he was that intoxicated, that delusional, and these were people in charge of the Muslim Ummah. Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen himself, alayhi salam, when he came to charge, he ousted all of these people. Ousted all of them. The first decision Imam Ali made in his governance and capital was what? He would not tolerate corruption. No corrupt people in my government. He immediately banished all of them. And not just banished all of them. Some people, when another establishment comes, the crimes of humanity from the last establishment, who's going to deal with that? No one does. But just, they finished, now there's a new group. This group finishes after 5, 4, 10 years, 8 years, here's a new group. Okay, what about the atrocities they committed? Is anyone going to hold them accountable? Not under Imam Ali's watch. Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib, you know what he did to this Walid bin Uqba? He lashed him 80 lashes. You can't drink and lead prayer. And the Quran speaks about the lashing here. One day Imam Al-Hassan alayhi salam is in Hajj, and Salamullahi alayh, is in Hajj, and they organize a conference between Muawiyah, Yazid, Amr ibn al-As, Walid bin Uqba, and Amr ibn Uthman, and they gather and they invite Imam al-Hassan to join. And this is after Imam al-Mujtaba makes a peace agreement with Muawiyah. And so they feel that Muawiyah got the shorter end of the stick, because all the terms are in Imam al-Mujtaba's favor, as he wrote the condition, which is a very sharp political decision to make. Anyone who makes a peace agreement, whoever writes it, no matter what the terms are, always has the advantage. And Imam al-Mujtaba is very witty and savvy. He wrote the conditions here. So Muawiyah was told, you know, you got the shorter end of the stick. If you die, the leadership goes to Hussein, it goes to Hassan. If he's not alive, it goes to Hussein. This is not in your favor. So we need to embarrass him publicly, this al-Mujtaba. So they gather Imam al-Mujtaba in a conference room, and what happens? They begin to attack him verbally. One man looks at him and says, I don't like you and I despise your father. And this was Walid bin Uqba. Imam al-Mujtaba said, of course you don't like my father. Yeah, I know you don't like him. Do you remember the 80 lashes he gave you? Be quiet. Another man comes and bashes Imam al-Hassan. Imam Hassan just ridicules them one after the other. In any case, Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen would not tolerate any form of corruption. He ousted all of them. Then he replaced all of these unjust walis or wulat, or these governors of Basra, of Medina, of Mecca, of these areas, with individuals he hand-selected. So he would make a representative. He would dispatch Malik al-Ashtar to Egypt. He would dispatch a representative of his by the name of Uthman bin Hanif. Uthman bin Hanif was sent to Basra to be Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen's representative. And Imam looked at his criteria. He looked like he was competent and qualified. One day, Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen gets word that Uthman bin Hanif, the man he sent to Basra, what did he do? Not a tragedy. He just went and was invited to a really rich house, and in this rich house they had a very lavish meal. And this Uthman bin Hanif, Imam Ali's representative in Basra, or I'm from in Basra, this man, he started enjoying the food, that's it. Imam Ali wrote to him a letter. He said, Ya Uthman, it has come to my attention that you attended a very lavish gathering while there are poor people that were not invited. This does not look good on you, Ya Uthman. Don't repeat this again. Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen will not tolerate that his own representatives do what? Simply attend a gathering where there was a big table spread and the poor were still hungry. Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib in Nahj al-Balagha makes it very clear to Malik al-Ashtar. He says to him, as you go to Egypt, O Malik, Allah bitabaqati sufla. Be very conscious and aware. Be easy with the sufla tabaqa, meaning the poorest class. Watch out for these poor people. And I want you to do one of two things. Either you give them a payroll. The welfare system of Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen was something non-existent, brothers and sisters. It doesn't exist today, and it never existed before. Only Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib did this, where he says, all those homeless people, give them money. Just give them money, let them get out of their homelessness. Once they're out of it, then they can work on their own, let them be. Except the elderly. Keep giving them a payroll system. The elderly. This can be found in the written letter of Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen to Malik al-Ashtar. Except the elderly. Keep giving them money. A weekly pension. In addition to them, they don't need to be Muslim. Let them be Christian if they like. And that's why Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen would be making his way through the streets of Kufa, and he sees a frail, withered, weathered, tired Christian man. He's laying down and he is begging for water. And Imam looks at his companions, Maytham al-Tammar, Al-Asbagh ibn Nubata, Malik al-Ashtar, before he dispatches them, and he says, Ma hadha? What is this? They replied, Innahu Masihi, Ya Amir al-Mu'mineen. It's just a poor Christian man. He said, I did not say men hadha. I didn't say who is this. I didn't care. I said, Ma hadha? What is this? I see oppression. I see a man under my eyes begging for food, begging for water. You used him when he was young and you worked him, and now when he gets old you oust him. Today, go take from the Bayt al-Mal, the treasury, give him a weekly pension right this instant. Let him survive. That is why when you read works such as At-Tabaqat li Ibn Sa'ad, non-Shia source obviously, but this is only for bringing areas of substantiating material, that it's non-Shia and Shia material. We all come in the consensus of the following. Under Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen's establishment, 3 things were accomplished. 3 things. Number 1, كانت الناس في حكومة علي يأكلون البر. That people under Imam Ali's government would eat whole grain bread. Everyone would eat whole grain bread. What does that mean? Everyone had food. No one was hungry. No one was poor. It was him. Didn't he say, alayhi salam, if poverty was a man, I would have killed him? He literally killed poverty. Everyone had bread in the life and the government of Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib. يأكلون البر وَيُنَامُونَ فِي الظِّلِّ. And they would sleep under shade, meaning everyone had a roof under the government of Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib. This was 4 years and 9 months of ruling. Let's not forget this, by the way. Oh, and let's not forget the 3 civil wars, Jamal, Siffin, and Nahrawan. You still got these going on, yet there was not an area of inflation. There was not a recession. There was not corruption. And everyone had a food, everyone had a house, at least shade. يُنَامُونَ فِي الظِّلِّ. They would sleep under shade, meaning everyone had a roof underneath them. وَيَشْرَبُونَ مَاءَ الْفُرَاتِ. And they would drink water from the Furat. Food and water, the basics of humanitarian living. Imam Ali is the greatest humanitarian, brothers and sisters. He is the voice of human justice. And that is the same description, not given by me, but by the famous Christian author from Lebanon, George Jordak. He wrote a book calling it Al-Imam Ali, Sawt al-Adala al-Insaniya, the voice of human justice. Just look at his life. He would mention that Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen one day was tying his shoe. It had snapped and he was fixing it. Ibn Abbas, his cousin, walks in and he looks at him and he says, Ya Ibn Abbas, my cousin, what do you think is the value of this shoe that I am trying to fix? Ibn Abbas looked at it, pondered, looked at the size, looked at the make. He's like, you know what, it's not worth anything because it's broken and it's an old shoe, Ya Ali. So I say 0 dirham, 0 dinar. Imam Ali says, this is more valuable to me than this entire khilafah. This entire rule and governing and power, I don't care for this. This has more value. George Jordak, the same Lebanese Christian, if you read Sawt al-Adala al-Insaniyah, he writes in there, I disagree unequivocally with Ibn Abbas. I said, what do you mean you disagree with Ibn Abbas? It's not worth anything. He's like, how on earth could you say the shoe of Ali is not worth anything? The crown of King Louis with all its gems is less valuable than the broken shoe of Ali ibn Abi Talib salawatullahi wa salamu alayhi. He would oust all of these corrupt rulers. He would reprimand them when they displayed behavior that he didn't agree with. And of course, Amir al-Mu'mineen sent Malik al-Ashtar, and with him this note, the mother of all humanitarian statements. وَاعْلَمْ يَا مَالِكَ أَنَّ النَّاسِ صِنْفَانِ أَمَّا أَخٌ لَكَ فِي الدِّينِ أَوْ نَظِيرٌ لَكَ فِي الْخَلْقِ. Oh, understand, Malik, you will deal with individuals that will give you a headache. Be patient with them. Allah bit-tabaqat as-sufla. Watch out from those who are the poorest of the class. And understand that people are two types. Either your brothers in religion or your equals in humanity. This should be printed in all of our hearts, brothers and sisters. How you treat others should be based on Imam Ali's principle here. Understand people are two. If they're not Muslims, they're your equals in humanity. They deserve the right to live and breathe and to be heard. The right of liberty and humanitarianism. Not coming from me, coming from the Amir himself, salawatullahi alayhi. It reached such a point that if you read material such as Muruj al-Dhahab of al-Dhahabi, among many others, or Tabari's Tariq, you will see that there was so much influx, so much increase of commodity that they were not even aware of what to do with all the wheat and food that Imam Ali would generate for them. You know what he would do? He would say, take the extra barley and wheat. We have too much. There's not a single homeless person that I could give it to anymore. And the Muslim world, do you know what it meant? The Muslim Khilafah, what was it? Oh, it was the North Africa, up to Khurasan, which is modern-day India. All of that was under his rule. Not one person was starving. Not one person didn't have a place to sleep under. Not one person didn't have water. Such that Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib would say, take the extra wheat and spread it on hilltops. Hilltops. Like, why? Are we just throwing it away? He would say, no. Such that if someone is passing by the Muslim Khilafah, they will say, Subhanallah, not even the birds went hungry under Ali ibn Abi Talib. Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen would not tolerate a moment of injustice, brothers and sisters. And in fact, despite 3 civil wars, 3 arduous battles, backstabbing, betrayal, he still managed to become the greatest political ruler you will ever see. And I wish I could just say political ruler and that's it. The greatest philosopher, the greatest imam, the greatest theologian, the greatest articulate, eloquent, baligh speaker is Ali ibn Abi Talib, brothers and sisters. And on a day like this, that same imam, that same humanitarian, that same father of the orphans will now make us all orphans today. Al-Asbagh ibn Nubata narrates that I came to the house of Ali ibn Abi Talib and I saw 2 of his sons, Al-Hassan wal-Hussein, both of them crying in front of Imam Ali. And Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib would say to them, my beloved sons, don't cry, be patient. مَا هِيَ إِلَّا الْجَنَّةِ. It's just going to be Jannah in a little bit for me. Don't worry about that. Especially Imam al-Hussein, he would cry very heavily until Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen would tell him, my beloved son, O Hussein, Habibi Hussein, come to me. Imam al-Hussein approached his father. Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib would take his blessed hand and place it on the heart of Aba Abdullah. And he would say, my beloved son, have patience, be patient, watch out, don't cry. And Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen would not cry at the sight of his 2 sons, Al-Hassan wal-Hussein. But do you know when he cried? Until Zaynab alayha salam entered the room. That's when Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen began to finally cry in the presence of his family. Sayyidah Zainab would inquire, saying, "O my father, why is it you cry upon me entering this place when you are surrounded by Hassan wal Hussein? What will be of us after you? O my beloved father, I am here to ask you one question." Ayman, the famous companion of Rasulullah, she would tell me that one day Rasulullah said, Sayyidah Zainab is narrating this, that one day I will be and my brother will be alone in the land known as Karbala, but you will not be there with us, and Hussein will not be there. Who will be there after that day? Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen called out, Ayna Abbas? Where is my beloved son Abbas? Abul Fadl al-Abbas enters the room, mourning his father Amir al-Mu'mineen. He grabs the hand of Zainab, and he grabs the hand of Abul Fadl, and he puts their hands together, and he says, he will watch after you, after Hussein, and after I go, Ya Abbas, make sure none come near her. They say after the event of Karbala happened, Sayyidah Zainab helped all the orphans and women climb on the camels and the horses until she was left by herself. She would see the horse that she needs to get on to be taken captive, but she sees no one able to help her up. One day it was Aba Abdullah. He would bend down and help her climb onto the horse, but he is no longer there. And the other day it was Abbas, but he lay down by the Furat river. She looks left and right, no one can help me on this horse. And she ended up walking the entire way. Oh, Mu'mineen. Al-Asbagh ibn Nubata says, I entered the room and I looked at my Mawla and I saw that he had a yellow band wrapped around his head to conceal the wound. But I couldn't tell what was more yellow, the yellow band or the yellowness of his skin, alayhi salam, from how much blood he had lost. And he began to weep. Amir al-Mu'mineen looked at his companion and said, Ya Asbagh, ma hiya illa al-Jannah. Be patient, I will see Jannah. Do not cry. Do you know what he replied? He says, my master, I do not cry over you. I have no doubt Jannah awaits. I cry over us, what will happen to us when we lost such a father like you, Ya Ali. We are the orphans today. Tonight, Amir al-Mu'mineen is with his family gathered together. And tomorrow is the greatest of all tragedies. He returns back to his Lord. Oh, believers, how can we see a day without our master Ali? Inna lillah wa inna ilayhi raji'un. وسيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلبون والعاقبة للمتقين. فرج عنا يا الله. اللهم إنا نسألك وندعوك باسمك العظيم الأعظم الأعز الأجل الأكرم. 10 times, brothers and sisters, on the day of the strike of Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen. Ya Allahu, Ya Allahu, Ya Allah, Ya Allahu. Ya Allahu, Ya Allahu, Ya Allah, Ya Allahu, Ya Rahmanu, Ya Rahim. Oh Allah, we ask you on Ali ibn Abi Talib to raise us with Amir al-Mu'mineen on the day of judgment. Oh Allah, we ask you to grant us the ziyarah of our master in Najaf, to grant us a shafa'ah in the akhirah, and for all those who have left us and from the lovers of Amir al-Mu'mineen, we will send to them a surah al-Mubarakat al-Fatiha, but before it the loudest of your salawat.